Welcome back, everybody. If you're here for the first time, welcome. If you've been following this series, everything you want to know about the Silva Method from two very experienced instructors. Today, we have a special treat for you. It represents the heart and soul of the Silva Method. José Silva's vision way back in 1966 when he first developed this coursework that's probably the most copied, most imitated. What I'm talking about is healing, remote healing through what we call caseworking. So together, Amy and I are going to explore this and offer you some tips. Stay tuned. Watch to the end because there's going to be a lot. How it came about, what started, the intention behind it, how you can enhance it, and what are some benefits, the value for you to practice. Unfortunately, there's information out there. There are condensed versions of the program, and they don't go very deep. And sometimes it's a little misleading. And that's our intention in this series. We want to honor José Silva's masterpiece and lead you to the real deal, so to speak. So it's Amy Schneider and myself, Ken Cosica here. Hey, Amy, good to see you again.
Hello, Ken. Good to see you too. I'm super excited about talking about caseworking today. It is, I know as instructors and our fellow instructors here in the States and abroad, we all love caseworking. I really love talking about it.
And may I add, I know you love it. I do too. And it's not easy. And it's not a quick fix. And that's something we want to explore because when we do caseworking, it's not just about being intuitive and demonstrating that, but it's really about stepping out of your comfort zone, stepping out into what now is being called the field to access information. And when we do that, initially, if we are not experienced, it can be very uncomfortable without proper training, without proper guidance, without correct, accurate information. And again, that's why Amy and I are here. I trust Amy implicitly. She teaches in Atlanta and Northwestern North Carolina. I'm in Chicago area here in Connecticut. I get the pleasure of traveling the world doing graduate advanced programs and so on. Amy, I know you've been compiling questions that seem to come up a lot about caseworking.
I have. So the first question is, what is caseworking?
I'm laughing with you. Thank you. Let's lighten it up because it's a serious topic, but we're assuming. I listen so often to instructors talk about casework. Everybody knows what it is. Are you a caseworker, like a psychologist or a social? No. It's a term José Silva manufactured. May I just briefly dip into how this came about?
Yes.
If you know anything about the Silva history, read the books. There's hundreds of books. There's at least a dozen that specifically outline it. But it really started with an act of love. Mr. Silva, who had little or no education, but yet rose in everything he did and excelled in everything he did and became an electronics expert, etc., wanted to pass that on to his children. He believed at the time in 1944 with his children and eventually with 10 children that a good education would make a difference. But it was very common in Laredo, a border town, for people to not get higher education. So his act of love was, could he help them? And he did tons of research, accelerate learning, learn faster, easier, maybe have fun. And that's what he started, and he succeeded. I'm a living example, flunking out of college in engineering and wound up becoming the youngest instructor on the planet at the age of 19 and a graduated cum laude while I was teaching Silva full-time in Boston using these tools. So he succeeded. He was thrilled. However, around 1953, he had now moved from his own children, the eldest in particular, Isabel and Margie, and then to neighborhood children, family, friends. Word spread. And he would do all sorts of experiments with them. And one day he's coming in to begin, and I'll abbreviate as best I can, and one of the children raised his hand and said, Mr. Silva, I know what you're going to tell us today. And Jose, I wish you guys had met him. I had the pleasure. He was my mentor. I worked closely with him. I followed him around. He guided me. We'd have lunch together. He's been in my home, etc. What a privilege and an honor. And I learned so much from that. And what happened was he looked at him in this deep, bellowing baritone voice. I haven't told you. How could you? And he said, no, I'm not joking. I know. He said, what are you talking about? And he said, last night I was in my alpha state, which we've identified now as a meditative state. You can see the chart behind me, alpha theta state. And I was thinking about you daydreaming, and I was curious what you're going to cover. And I heard your voice in my head. Have you ever heard voices, Amy?
I have.
I just did it in a dream. And you told me exactly what you were covering. Come on. And Jose said, what? And he told them exactly what Jose had written that morning over breakfast. Did you hear that? Roland said he heard the voice last night. Jose didn't know what he was going to cover that night. Over the morning at his breakfast, coffee, and so on, he made a decision. Okay, I'm going to cover this. It's called precognition in parapsychology. It moved him. I'll put it that way. It didn't really spook him, but it was almost unbelievable. Fluke, lucky guess. Except the other children began to do much the same. They began to anticipate his questions before he even asked them. And they were correct. And what he noticed, the common denominator was, it was especially while their eyes were closed in what we call alpha. It's a training that we do to help people move into the state that's typically sleep, but you stay awake. And it's also similar to meditation. And while in that state, they would have these experiences more likely, and they were accurate. And very simply, he thought, I must be onto something of more value than memory. It inspired him. And that was a defining moment around 1953. And he shifted studying parapsychology. Parapsychology, J.B. Ryan at Duke University. But the more he studied it, he said, there's actually scientists studying unexplainable phenomena like this. Now, I'm not going to tempt anyone, but I just want you to know he spent 22 years looking at everything that you could imagine, looking for common denominators. We started doing experiments with the children, thinking, if we could control this, if we could have a high level of accuracy and trust, think about it in your own life. Can you relate? What would it mean to you? Making decisions, making investments, picking friends, picking a vacation spot, selecting flights, etc., or what airport you're going to fly into or fly out of. The list goes on, of going shopping. This is my wife's favorite, and finding incredible deals. Don't laugh, Amy. It's okay. Amy knows her very well. But that's what excited him, thinking. It wasn't about psychic whoopee. It was about you are far more than, and he believed from the beginning that this is not just a gift that Amy has, I have, and select people. It's something we all possess, but it's dormant because we live in a culture still, but especially going back not too long ago, that didn't encourage it. That, ooh, don't tell anybody about that dream. You know, when you have a dream about something before it happens. So there was little or no encouragement. He was criticized by some parapsychologists. Oh, no, you must have found some naturals. So he just did all sorts of experiments with this, projecting their thoughts awareness to nearby oil wells and predicting how deep they're in the ground, the grade of oil. And he just played games with the kids. But another defining moment was when it came into his attention about psychic healing or laying on of hands healing. They've been around for ages. So he went and investigated. It's hard to find them in America because of the laws, medical laws, and not practicing medicine without a license. But in Mexico, they're all over the place.
Okay.
He thought some of them seemed charlatans, but some of them were doing something. And he couldn't explain. So that made him think, oh, gee, can I do it? And he started playing with it. Moving energy. Now what we know, we're moving energy. We are electromagnetic beings. Everything that exists in you exists on this planet, in our solar system, and it's believed in this galaxy. And its energy is what? Information. And it's part of the field. It's exciting, guys, because in recent years, more and more scientists are agreeing and finding and researching, astrophysicists. When I started in 1971, oh my God, it was like stuff like this. So where I'm going with this is then he started to see if he could teach the children. And they're playing with this. And then he started thinking about his own religious background, about prayer and prayer healing and praying for someone. And he started doing what's become now known in modern days, remote healing with the kids. And sometimes they seem to be getting results. And of course, it's not 100%, but it was happening enough to encourage him. There's something here. We got to understand this better. So what it is, attuning, desiring to attune while in a relaxed inner conscious state, not in your outer awareness, because they're logic rules and the science rules and show me the money rules. when we are sleeping, we're tapping the subconscious, if you want to call it that. And when we're in the field, not governed by the same laws, there's no time, there's no space. It just is. That's why we have dreams and we can access it. For ages, we've been taught we're a part of something more. And with conscious awareness, we can access. And that's what became known as caseworking, because you'd have them put on their mental screen as if they were there in front of them and imagine somebody they didn't know, not anyone there, and come up with information specifically about the person. And there's no way they could have known, whether it be about their personality, how they look, their size and shape, or any medical conditions, like what's become known as medical intuition, but that wasn't his intention. Medical intuition, you got to work under the auspices of the law, and you need understanding thorough of the body. But this is similar. I'll call it beginning phase, to be fair with that. And picking up information, kind of like getting a target, and then directing thoughts with mental rehearsal, with visualization, or saying a prayer, or changing in your mind thoughts as if wishing them well. A lot of ways to do it. So not only were they accurate in their perception and getting information that knocked the socks off, but sometimes, again, I put it that way, to be fair and to be truthful, they got results. It seemed like people were improving. So that became known as caseworking, intuitive caseworking. How's that for an answer? I know it's a bit of a long-winded answer, guys.
I love it. I love it. My next question was, what's the history? I don't have to ask that now. So when do we do it? Why do we do it? How is it included in our class? I'm going to start you off a little bit, because this particular piece of why we include this in class for really understanding your intuition and really being able to send some healing, send some love, send some gratitude. It's my favorite part of the course because it's the most transformative, and it's really where we understand that we all have this ability, this God-given gift of intuition.
It requires a skill set, and it requires very careful facilitation and guidance by somebody who has mastered it. Not an online program of pre-recorded videos or someone saying do this, etc. Disrespect. Some people can, but for the most part, there's a lot to it and a lot of possibilities, because when people in the field are tuning in energetically, you understand people don't understand what they're doing and why. It's easy to let fear and superstitions in, and they'll never go back to it. It's common for people to feel uncomfortable for one reason or another, and it's not a problem. There's no danger, but we make up stories. And without proper guidance, without proper understanding, which is why you can read about it, go ahead, and if that floats your boat. But I just caution you, want to make sure that this is why having an instructor or somebody who's been trained properly and has a ton of experience working with people, empaths, need to be careful not to internalize the energy, because that's why nurses, social workers, people who work with people, you know who you are. They take it on and they're exhausted. There's a lot of premature burnout. There's a lot of self-medicating to just try and deal with it because they don't know how to, they don't have the, shall I say, psychic boundaries, the boundaries energetically to prevent themselves from internalizing it. And read about it. This is not just a Silva thing. Empaths, just look it up. There are a lot of people who attempt to cover it. Some call them emotional vampires that kind of suck our energy. So again, people who have experienced it. I've actually become quite masterful at helping people, empaths, keep that out there. And I'm one myself with this. It's training. It takes that. But if we don't have the proper training and we don't understand what the heck's going on, people get turned off, and then the fear guides them, and then they go to the same old. They go to what feels familiar and comfortable, and nothing changes. If you're really going to change, if you're really going to grow, if you're really going to evolve, the only way is to step out of your comfort zone. It stinks sometimes. It's uncomfortable. I agree. In anything, whether it be your relationship between you and your lover, your spouse, whether it be in your work, whether it be in your public speaking, in anything we do, the greatest way to grow and evolve is to step out of the comfort zone. Why? Because we don't have a future identity with it yet. We don't know what it really means. That's, by the way, I know you asked a different question, Amy. I don't remember it,
Okay.
but this is something I'm very passionate about in this aspect because this is where the magic happens.
It is.
Over these more than half a century, I've witnessed, if for whatever reason, people would only do the first 2 days. Oh, good course, Amy. Thank you very much. This is nice. But when they finish all 4 days, especially when you do it 4 days in a row, it's like, oh my God, my mother's got to. You could see it in their faces. The energy is palpable. There's truly a shift,
Yeah.
an energetic shift that you're never the same again. You see the world differently, more positively. You have more control, which is a benefit. You realize you're not a victim, that you're far greater than you realize, and you can manage the energy that you interact with, that you feel and perceive in doing your work as a doctor, nurse, therapist, coach, trainer, Silva instructor, a mother, and so on and so forth with that. And that's the point. And that's my concern because I know I'm a dinosaur, some would say. I do some virtuals occasionally and online, and there's value beginning. But that's why I realized I no longer accept registrations, even from graduates wanting to review, unless they commit to the whole 4 days. Why? Because I want you to get the value. I want you to get full value. I want you to really, this is not about regurgitating information. This is not about, oh yeah, here's the skill, do this, do that. It's about making a shift. And even neuroscience research shows 4 days in a row. And now there's a ton of research coming out about 7-day type meditation retreats and the value. It's that compounding effect with respect to that. So the point about, can you repeat your question again? I gotta remember.
Yes, it's funny because as you were talking, I was thinking of some things as well. So I love that. So it's why do we do it? And I am going to add to that, which you just touched on a little bit, is we cover it in the last 2 days, which is why you really need to, when you're taking the class, you've got to stay for all 4 days. And it is one of the reasons this technique right here is the reason why I wanted to be a Silva instructor, because when you really understand the value of what understanding your intuition is, because it's unique for all of us. It's as unique as our own fingerprint. It's not the same for everyone. It is completely unique to you. When you understand that, you're able to navigate life easier. You're able to understand things better. You're able to make better decisions. A whole new world opens up, and the growth process, the self-growth process, which, as we just mentioned, can be so uncomfortable, it makes it easier. It makes it a little less uncomfortable. So we're not as afraid of it. The question was, why do we do it? And why is it positioned in the last 2 days?
Now, there's a bunch of things questions in your questions, Amy. Is brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Keep me on point. Keep me
I
on point.
will.
I'm glad I went where I went because that is a major benefit for everybody, not just the empaths indirectly, because we're all managing our energy. There's so much stuff going on the planet right now, in the world right now. And if we're not careful, we need to be careful. We want to manage our energy so that we don't succumb to the drama and become a victim. Because if we lose hope, we lose everything, we give up. And you're not a victim. You're far more powerful than you realize. And that's the point. So just shift back why we do it, in addition to the benefit. So you know what caseworking is, what it is. On the surface, basically, it's a tremendous confidence builder. Because quite frankly, most people think they can't do it. I frequently have trance mediums in class with me. I have people who are professional psychics, we'll call them, whatever. People who are no stranger to this. And even they, when we get to this section on the last day, there's that little bit of, in the pit of the stomach, performance anxiety. There's something about it because we're not doing it logically. It's not a rational process. That's what I love about it. We are definitely attuning. It's almost a mystical experience. I just went through a week-long retreat, and all they talk about was mystical experiences, and I'm just now realizing that's what it's like for me. I'm doing, because I'm not there physically, you know what I mean? It's like you just tapped into something. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? And the beauty is often when you have a clear intention, what your goal is, you can use it to get information to help you solve a problem, to innovate, to help. So it's a confidence builder. And that's why we spend 2 days. There's a lot of intuition games that I mentor the instructors to do that I've adapted and brought into the coursework. And it's okay. I haven't changed Jose's coursework. I've actually enhanced it. But we spend up to 3 hours practicing case, not 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Or here's an app, go to the app and go to this website. You can practice that as a graduate. Once you have the skills, be easier. But in the beginning, there's a lot of people are very frustrated with that because, again, you need the training. So it's 3 hours breakout. People have a minimum of 10 to 13 experiences where you walk out of it. Sometimes you blow it, but you walk out of the class, you graduate, you finish, certificate of completion, undeniable evidence. And nobody can take that away from you because you've been there, done that. You did it. You went beyond your 5 senses. You beat the odds. You were way beyond statistic of guess. And I would never argue with anybody or any scientist, but the fact is, whatever's happening, somehow, some way, we access information at a subjective level, not through our 5 senses, not logically, through that. And when you do it repeatedly, it builds that evidence. And it doesn't stop there. Jose recommended. It's not about do 500 or do 100. It's a never ending. It's a lifelong process. We're integrating it. We're making it a part of us so that we go on automatic because initially we go through a whole routine. The Silva training, as Amy knows, is very structured. So we're in that structure, which gives us focus and gives us and control and clarity. And once we have that, the structure, the routine is not as important, frankly. So we start there. And that's why I've never met anybody who couldn't do it. I've met people who refuse to do it every once in a while, but we all have the ability. So you bring everything you need. What Silva Method is a systematic step-by-step training to bring out your ability. So confidence. However, I almost feel apologetic, Amy, and I'm guessing you do too, because that's not the big why. That's not the intention. The intention is to do good, to make a difference, to contribute in a meaningful way so that we leave this planet, this world better off for those who follow, so that we solve problems, so that we have positive influence on our children, our friends, our neighbors, each other, so that we lead with integrity and love in our heart. And when we succumb to the crap and the stresses and we're in survival mode or fear mode, that ain't going to happen. And let's face it, we're fellow human beings. Have you been there? Can you relate? I know I have. There are times that I just don't feel like doing it. I said to Amy when we started this series, I was going through a patch. I stopped doing it. I didn't feel like it. And there was she inviting me and so on. And it was a gentle kick in the pants for that. But also it's like walking. I walk every day. Today was a little rainy, but rain, snow, sleet, and hail. I'm out there because I'm on automatic. And it's funny. If I haven't yet, I got to get my walk in because I've done it so often. And that's another reason why we do it. The benefit is that you're awakening your intuition and you're developing points of reference, meaning what's the difference that made the difference when you were accurate and when you were off. It's like watching a video or a commercial on come to Jamaica or come to the Caribbean, wherever. It looks beautiful. It's very different than being there and your feet in the sand and the sun and the culture. Very different experience. And it makes much more of an indelible impression. So confidence builder, but ultimately it's about, can we do remote healing? And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm not licensed. I'm not prescribing, medical disclaimer. But throughout my life, family, friends have been a case, if you will, sometimes an emergency case. And the results have been so inspiring that I don't care what anybody says. I don't know if it was me, if it was Amy, the group healing, but something's going on that we don't understand, and that's what it's about. And right now at University of California, they're doing studies on remote healing, which means at a distance, as well as in person. And another reason why we do it is there's a saying, comes, I think, from Scripture, as you give, so shall you receive. In marketing, they teach this: lead with generosity. We know this, that gratitude is the ultimate receiver. When we're in a state of gratitude, we're more likely to receive what we want, what we need, because it changes us energetically. And let's face it, guys, we're fellow human beings. I don't know. Nobody's perfect. Do not let anybody kid you. They stand up on their pedestal, whatever. We're growing, we're evolving. But what happens is when you put somebody into your awareness, what we call your mental screen, it's an act of love. But what I love about it is you get out of your own head and you're not thinking about, and this is a tip, pro tip, you're not thinking about your children, your life, your business, or whatever, or it's concerning you. If you lead with service and honest, sincere, genuine interest, can I help this person? I don't know if I can, but boy, it would be so cool if I could. You'll nail it. You'll be amazed. You'll be so accurate. You'll tune in and maybe help. And I personally believe that that we're making a difference that way. And that's part of one of the things I think is magical, because people are struggling. It's not easy, life. Life sometimes is so difficult, or can be. But when you have the tools and you have the training, we can make it less difficult. We can navigate more gracefully and ease. And caseworking is a vehicle. And the reason why it's positioned, see, I did remember Amy, at the end, is we're clearing a path to the higher self. José's research found it takes 40 hours of training. It used to be 48 if you read the early book, but we cut out the dinner break, and we cut out, instead of having 2 hours for lunch and 2 hours for dinner, we cut that out. We have 1 hour for lunch, and that's where we save the time. But it's not 10 hours of training. It's not 24 or 30. It's 4. And there's a number of guided meditations that are necessary to get into the zone, so to speak. Of course, some people quicker than others. I'm not going to attempt to go into that, but this is part of what instructors recognize. And that's why I don't believe in shortcuts. And I tell people this ain't a quick fix. And why Amy said to you before, you really want this? If you're sincere and you want to experience that and you want to affect change in your life, commit from the very beginning to the end. Participate fully, do all the exercises, have fun, a blast, and you will leave amazed. And it'd be better than better than ice cream. How about that? If you miss, would be a thing. So briefly, if somebody is trouble sleeping and they're not sleeping a minimum 7 to 9 hours, that interferes with cognition, thinking. You have a cloudy brain fog. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Brain fog. You're not at your best. It's hard to be at your best if you're not sleeping properly. I meet so many people, one of the first things they do is learn how to sleep better at night. So when we're getting that, and sleep helps us to rejuvenate physically and psychologically. If we're not sleeping properly, it can lead to mental disorders, breakdowns, psychosis. No joke. I'm not making this. I was going to say, shit up. Read the research. I've dedicated 55 years of my life since I started in all these sleep and dream studies and so on. It's so important. We teach people how to get out of stress state, how to get out of fear state, how to get out of survival. That takes time, though. How to sleep better, how to manage pain. If people are in pain, it's a big distraction. I've had my share of physical pain. I've had accidents. I was doing some goofy things not too long ago on the island on a rental bike. Man, I really banged the heck up of myself. And when you're in discomfort, it's a distraction. So we're teaching people how to manage the pain, how to get out, so that you can have a purer meditative experience, so that you can more easily access your higher consciousness. And there's a whole lot. And that's why we're doing that. It's self-improvement. And then we're more ready in a sense. As Amy said, control. Because thought control. When people meditate, it's very common. A very common monkey mind and their daydreaming. It's about learning to control. Daydreaming is great. It's healthy. Daydream every day, often.
All the time.
Right. Learn how to manage it, learn how to direct it at times. And that's where the magic's at, which is what athletes do, which is what people are doing. I think it might be fair to say that we started it all, the first formal coursework in 66. However, there are plenty of people, philosophers, and brilliant minds who, even before José's time in the early 1900s, were talking about stuff like this and teaching. It's just José organized it, put it together in a coursework, if you will. he'd be the first to say I didn't do anything new. But the point is, it's a training. I think I covered. What do
I
you
think you did. You did. And actually, I want to touch on one thing you said with helping others and giving gratitude and sending healing, because that is what it's all about. We do not live our lives independently of others. We live our lives in relation and in relationship to others. And we are all made up of this energy. And when we are able to stay out of stress, when we're able to manage our pain, when we're able to get better sleep, we're better able to focus on our goals, focus on solving problems, and be more relaxed and open to different points of view, and also helping each other, and in helping someone else, helping ourselves. There is a video that I show in class. I've got to send it to you, Ken. It's a video, it's very short, of a graduate of, I believe it's NC State, North Carolina State University, where she was the keynote speaker there for her class. And she suffered a traumatic brain injury in softball. She was a D1 athlete for NC State. And because of this injury, it completely changed how she saw herself. It completely changed where she saw herself going. And what she started to do in order to rebuild is she started looking at others and her family, her friends around her, and she started appreciating and really noticing what made that person, the positive attributes. And as she started doing that, so as she started giving gratitude and recognizing the good in others, she started to also recognize who she was and the good in her and what she had to offer the world. And so in creating that perfect blueprint and acknowledging that perfect blueprint, now I say perfect, that blueprint of excellence, if you will. And you and I talked about this yesterday a little bit, but that blueprint of excellence, then she was able to do that for herself. And when we do caseworking, it's really what we're doing. When we're able to focus on love and sending healing and love and gratitude to someone else, even though we're sending it out to them, in our mind, we are creating that blueprint of excellence for ourselves. So there is that boomerang effect of being able to really help heal ourselves as well and appreciate the good and the love in ourselves. And that brings me back to what I just mentioned, the excellent blueprint of excellence versus perfect blueprint. Is my question for you is, when we do caseworking, does it matter if we're right or wrong? Does it matter if we're perfect?
Now, it doesn't matter if you learn from it. However, you're still attuning. And we often say to people, even if, Amy, I don't have that information, I'm not sure, still imagine healing thoughts. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Amy, you brought up really important aspect there. In fact, I was hearing Jose's voice in my head about the blueprint. That's what he called it. We're creating excellence, a blueprint, and we're sending out a copy. Excuse me. But we're keeping the master.
Yes.
Why is that important? I'm really excited about research going on. Early 70s, study done that started out as a study to demonstrate, and true, that when we do what we call the 3-to-1 method, people are shifting their brainwaves, moving into alpha and theta. But they found, they did this is by accident, that some people only got into very high alpha, low beta. Some got deep into theta. There was a whole group. But when they were presented I have this silly stuff in my throat. But when they did cases, they went deeper or came out of it and leveled off at 10.2555 cycles per second. In this little blue book, it's called EEG Correlates of Attention in Humans. There's a brief condensation of that study. It's called EEG correlate. Why is that important? Alpha today in biofeedback is known as the center point, the point of stability in the brain, the rhythmic brainwave pattern. Gamma, which is so much more energetic, or even beta, but they're not as stable as alpha. Same thing, theta is deeper, less energy, delta even less, but not as stable. And new growths always take place from the point of stability, from the center point. So when you have chaos and out all over, when that chaos is managed, organized, structured, shall I say, that's when the new growth, that's when you're moving that. So that really excited Jose. It was demonstrated because we found that when people were doing cases, they were getting better, even if they didn't affect a change in the person remotely, but themselves. And if they had a heart condition or high blood pressure or whatever it might be, they were showing improvement by doing nothing more, nothing different other than caseworking. And that became part of our topic, our theory, I have to call it that concept. If you have a health challenge, work cases on people who have a similar health challenge. Because Amy said you're creating that master blueprint. Now, and I've noticed this in my own life, it's also a way to detach from the ego, self-absorption. Let's face it, guys, we've all been there too often, right? When we're upset about something, dealing with crisis or whatever, it's hard not to be self-absorbed, needy. But when you, even under those conditions, I've had so many people suffering from depression, PTSD, etc. And when they do cases, it has a healing effect. And there's research now looking at that through meditation. In recent years, in the early years, we called it group healing, like an energy circle. And we'd have a group of people making a circle and somebody who needed help for whatever reason, health challenge. Again, we're not doctors. So they'd lay on the floor in the middle or sit in a chair in the middle, and we'd all close our eyes, tune into our alpha theta state, and imagine creating some energy, love, and good vibe, and projecting it to them. And the research now, in recent years, they now call that coherence healing. And there's different aspects of doing it, different groups, which is another topic. But let's piggyback on their research, that the healer is getting more benefits than the healee. The person doing the sending seems to be getting more benefits. And the research coming out is showing that. And a lot of universities are looking for more with that. And that's something anecdotally, I have to put it that way, that we've observed in our own lives. So it's another benefit. We also learn. And I would say, I want to go into some tips for people who are practitioners, but I would like to add this, just a big why. Just imagine for a moment is looking at the world, a lot of life events you and I have no control over. We can't control people. We have no right to, and etc. We can protest. We can hold people accountable if they allow us to and don't hurt us, etc., which is a whole other thing. But the surest way to change is that when I change, my world seems to change. And that's what you were saying, Amy, today, that when I want to see that video, is when people shift and become healthier, more at peace, more joy in their life, they begin to see the world through different lens. You're changing literally the field of your reticular activating system, which is the field, all the electron through the nervous system goes through it. It's like a big filter. And when we see things differently, and if all we see is the crap, and if all we see and all we do is complain about people, hey, oh, you never do this, you never do that, and you never do this, and all we do is give them attention, guess what? You're going to get a whole lot more of that. You're reinforcing it. I'm not saying to ignore what needs attention. Of course not. But there's what Amy's saying about the gratitude. And when we're in that state doing caseworking, to me, it's a deep spiritual experience in that. And I believe and notice that when we change our filters and we see each other a little bit differently, we might be, I'll just conservatively say, a little kinder, a little bit more respectful, a little bit more generous. And as more and more people do that way, so therefore, I'm putting out that vibe, and it's affecting, influencing the people I come into contact with at the supermarket, at getting my hair cut, in my classes, at work. And as more and more people do that, that's what lifts the whole planet. And I would say this to you, especially if you're feeling trouble with what's going on, how could you not? There are far more really good people like you. There are far more people, the majority, and the data doesn't lie, and the data's there. It's just not being openly revealed to us. Do some searching, do some digging. And as I move around in the world, I find there's so many really great people, organizations, light workers, people wanting to make a difference. That's what lift us all up. And so this is our contribution. This is the tool we use to see that.
I feel the same way. It's why it is just such an amazing part. It's the reason we do everything we do leading up to that, because it just brings everything together. I know we went through a lot of benefits. I want to ask you two other questions where we can bring all of that in. Even though we just talked about the benefits, what would you say are the top 3 benefits of caseworking? And my second question is, for those people who are Silva practitioners, what are some tips so they can enhance their practice? Because the more you practice, the more information you'll get, the better your intuition will be, the more you can do, the better you can do some good as well.
Okay, look, top 3 tips that come to mind would be competence. You develop a high level of competence, which leads to trust and confidence in yourself, in your belief that you are far more powerful than you've probably given yourself credit for. But also, you begin to recognize through practice, not once or twice, the difference that made the difference. I know I've had this feeling, I've had this thought, I've had this vision before. I can trust it. And once with practicing, you go on autopilot and you'll find yourself making better, wiser decisions. Will you be 100%? I doubt it. Nobody's 100%. It's all interpretation. But you'll be far more, the odds will be in your favor. You'll be more innovative. You'll have breakthroughs. You'll solve more problems. Just study history. Famous inventors, innovators, even up to the present. Where do they get their ideas from when they're sleeping in a dream? They have ideas, and then they work hard physically to make it a reality. We're talking the same thing. And what work can do is that it just doesn't happen happenstance, that we can control it, turn it on more consciously rather than waiting through happenstance, whatever. So I would say that. Another big benefit, which is dear to me, my heart, is the possibility of helping somebody else, of helping somebody, because things are not always what they appear to be. And also to get to the truth, to get to the truth. How do you know that what someone's saying is the truth? And then helping somebody and really, because let's face it, doctors are scientists at heart. That's their job. It's show me the evidence. You can't blame them for that. Let's cut them a break. I've done a lot of work. I've had a lot of physicians in class. I've even done emotional intelligence trainings with here in Connecticut, some physicians groups. They're scientists at heart. They're healers. They want to help me, but they have to go by what they know. That's their job, unless they expand out into more holistic. So what I'm saying is we have both channels, so to speak, our objective, medical, logical, scientific basis knowledge, and what we know in the field, or that we need to make manifest physically. And then we're that much more effective. I think that's at least 3.
It is. I want to say one quick thing regarding doctors and the science. This was a surprising fact I learned a while ago, but this is why we want to develop this skill, this mental skill, because scientifically it takes 20 years on average for medical evidence. They've got the evidence for it to actually catch up into practice. That's a really long time.
Holy moly.
Decades, even though they've got proof, it works, it's repeatable, we've done the work. In order for it to be adopted as a whole and become acceptable in society, it takes on average 20 years. And so when we have that extra skill of really being able to turn it on and have that structure of, can I trust what I'm seeing? Can I trust the evidence? Or can I weed through the information, all of this information that we have coming at us? It is truly imperative that we develop that skill.
Amen, sister. Amen. Perfect.
So
So
the last question for Silva practitioners, what are some tips so that they can continue to develop this skill?
there are three that come to mind. I would say top three. First, most important, desire to serve. When I do a training, and I believe you do too, and our fellow instructors, we have a lot of cool people in the United States teaching.
I do.
It's about 10 of us that are active, something like that. And we don't necessarily need more. People, if you're really committed to it, you'll travel or do whatever it takes to be there. It's worth it. You'll more than get your money, your time back. Find out for yourselves. But to serve. So I often say to people, hey, you're new at this. If you adopt the attitude saying, I said it earlier, I don't know if I can do this, but if I could really help this person, whoa, that's all it takes. If you go into it, can I do it? Can I do it? And you have performance anxiety, you'll get drained of your energy. It's not the doing of things that wears people out. That's another thing. It's the thinking of it. Another benefit casework is people discover really strong, powerful way. Energy is energy. And if we drag it out and go too slowly and think and analyze, we're going to analysis paralysis and we're drained. That's what wears people out. So you know who you are, you practitioners. Oh, it took so much of my energy because you were thinking too bloody much. You were worrying. But if you just focus on serving and you get in there and work quickly, it's okay if you miss some things because you're practicing, you're developing a skill. Guaranteed you'll get more done, you'll feel better about it. Sure, you're expending mental energy, of course, especially going 4 days in a row. But it doesn't have to be so to the extreme. That's why we guide you, why it's so important working with an instructor live and in person, because we watch and we're guiding you that way to nip it. Because if people don't nip it in the bud, they develop a superstition, they make up a whole negative story, narrative about, it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't. Learn from kids, watch children. All three of Amy's children, from 8 to 10-ish when they started, Kaylee was the last 10, have gone through with me. They're my best students, not just because they're Amy's children, but that's part of it. Because they're just there. They get more done in less time than all the adults, and they're accurate.
They're so fast.
Yeah, but they walk away. Okay, what's that? The adults are like, oh my God, did I just do it? I think I did. And they up because it's in their, it's called cognitive. They just have a deep sense of knowing because they haven't been completely conditioned and programmed out of them with it. Another thing is be an observer. Just observe. First impressions. No analysis, no discussion, and definitely no judgment. Just what do you observe? What, if you're thinking, what's your first thought? If you're feeling, what's the feeling? If you're getting a visual image, what's that quick image? No thinking about those ones. That's not intuitive. Intuition's like that. How often have you had an impression and then you go to tell your spouse, what was he trying to tell you? Because it's etheric. It's not ground. It's not concrete. It's not, what's the word? Anchored, so to speak, unless you repeat it or write it down with that. And be playful. Be playful. We instructors are taught how to be playful. Make it a game, not a quiz, but a game. Be playful with that. And the more playful you are, the better you'll do, the more fun. I think that covers it. And
I think it does.
I want to say, and then Amy, I would like you to finish off. If you're still here watching, thank you. It says a lot about you. It says a lot about you is right, Amy, for that. Because this ain't a quick fix. That means you get it. That means you're special. Whether the Silva program may not be for you, it's been for millions and millions all around the world. But the point is, regardless, you're far more powerful than you realize. And with this, that says a lot. So I really appreciate your attention. Thank you for listening. If you find this valuable and you know some other Silva practitioners, people, share this with them. Let them know, because there's some priceless tips in here that will make a difference in your practice. Thank you, Amy, for organizing this.
It is my pleasure. I love talking about everything Silva. It is so wonderful, especially this technique that we're talking about with this culmination of the entire 4 days, because at the end of the 4 days as an instructor, and I know I'm not alone in this with my other fellow instructors, it is when you see everything come together for people who attend the class, it's really where you really truly understand we're all in this together, and it's priceless.
Until the next time, you
Thank
take care and keep smiling.
Thank you. Bye.